Hello, this week on 5 Brilliant Things we have Dom Joly.
Because I do so many different things. If there's one thing you could do, it would be travel right.
Yeah.
But I need to kill Bill Bryson first.
What is Mounjaro like?
You still feel hungry. You still get excited at food.
Yeah.
But what it does, I have Labradors, right?
It stops you from eating them.
Well, yeah. I was in Pyongyang in North Korea. I think I was the only Western tourist there. But then the only other Western tourist saw me and went, I'm in North Korea, it's rubbish. It's just weird.
So here we are.
Here we are.
You look great.
Thank you very much. So do you.
You don't look like you've aged.
Yeah, people keep saying that.
What's your regime?
It's very weird. I think I'm really, doing as little work as possible. And I'm just really lucky with my hair, actually. I'm quite pleased. My hair's now, I'm getting some grey, bits of grey, because before people would accuse me of dyeing it, which really irritated me.
So you were willing the grey?
I was I just wanted a little bit of grey.
So you felt authentic?
Yeah, just so I could like disprove them, or just to say I had a really complex, hair dyeing regime, but also just for a bit of gravitas. Gives you a little bit of gravitas.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Instantly, it gives you that kind of like sort of Clooney-esque vibe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, I'm an ex-goth, so I'm more kind of, I'm aging better than Robert Smith, basically, at the moment, because I'm going to keep my hair.
Yeah,
Much as I love Robert Smith, I don't want to offend the goth master in any way.
No, but it kind of adds to the to his allure, though, doesn't it?
I don't know.
He looks like he's melting. It's kind of great.
I mean, I don't want to kick this off by being rude about Robert Smith, because
No,
I
no,
love
no.
Robert Smith more than anything else in the world. But I have to say, like, I've met him, like, because I was a goth, and I still am a goth. You're never an ex-goth. I got kicked out of the goth community when I was about 21 for being slightly too cheerful, but you don't like lose it. And then I got him to do cameos in a couple of things after Trigger Happy, because I just wanted to meet him. And they were very complicated cameos that all went wrong. First time I met him, when I was filming, we were filming a scene outside Marylebone Registry Office, and he took me in his car from the office because I was so excited talking to him, and I was just couldn't believe I was talking to my total hero. When we got to Marylebone Registry Office, I opened the door of his chauffeur-driven car on the side of the street, and a lorry just sheared the door off. So, of course, he thought this was a trigger-happy joke, which it wasn't. Then the second time, he came and did a gig on one of my shows, and then we ended up going to the pub, and then we were drunk, and then he said, "Oh, well, let's go somewhere else." I go, "Where'd you take Robert Smith?" So in the end, I took him back to my flat, because I just thought, what do we do? And as we got to my flat, there were pictures all over my flat of me looking like him everywhere. It was like that Alan Partridge moment, so I was ripping them down. But anyway, but I remember when he first came on to do a cameo, I suddenly thought, what? Because I hadn't seen him for a bit at the time, and I thought, what if Robert Smith doesn't look like Robert Smith anymore, and he's cut the hair?
But that's what I love about him, because even though age may slightly tarnish him, he's still committed.
Oh, he's definitely committed to it.
Yeah.
But when this was 20 years ago, and I basically said, does he need makeup? And he said no. And they said no, he does his own. I thought, great, it's exactly as he is.
Yeah.
But now he's losing the hair.
Yeah.
So if I was him, I'd go for a wig. You want the full, luscious goth hair. I don't know. But he's a god.
There's an authenticity.
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's
100%.
Yeah. What's so interesting about The Cure as well is that, like, the look, it kind of creates. If you weren't aware of the music, it's almost kind of like it's got a vampiric look, and yet the music is relatively cheerful.
Well, this is a great discussion, because firstly, I wanted to do a thing on goths, and first person I was going to go to was Robert Smith, and he said, well, we were never a goth band, and I'm like, come on, like, I mean, The Forest is like Bauhaus to me is probably the epitome of goth. I mean, there's terrible goth that I don't like, Fields of the Nephilim, those sort of weird, The Mission, stuff like that. But to me, just looking wise and everything, they represented goth, certainly the first 3 albums. But he claims they're not, and then he's right, because they have a sense of humour. Think of things like Love Cats and stuff. So yeah, they're a very complicated band, and that's why I absolutely love them. I think they're great.
Best. And it's sort of it's such. I mean, we are here to talk about other things other than The Cure, but if you've never listened to them, it's timelessly brilliant stuff.
It is timelessly brilliant, and they have such a strong. They're so British in a sense,
yes,
and yet they are so massive in South America and France.
I often find that really peculiar. Like
a lot of Argentinian teenagers rocking out to.
Well, like Morrissey does arenas in Mexico.
Yeah,
and that to me, I often thought like,
Yeah.
It
What do they
shows-
get every day is like Sunday, trudging slowly
yeah.
through wet sands
That's
in
what I mean.
Acapulco.
But it's half a double decker bus.
Yeah, that's right.
Kill the both of us.
Yeah.
God, this really feels like I
Yeah.
don't know, but it's the majesty of music. You
Yeah.
never quite know. There's a brilliant thing about Louis de Bernier, and he was sort of saying he was so envious of kind of composers because words can only travel so far, but kind of melodies like Morrissey's da 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 da
I'm
just
totally with you
arrives
on that.
in Mexico.
And if you think about it, sometimes one of my favourite bands actually are touring at the moment, Psychedelic Furs from years ago.
Oh, that's a great
And,
name. I'm not familiar with them, but they
Psychedelic
sound
Furs.
like they sell Merkins.
Yeah, they were. They were. Psychedelic Furs were part of the sort of my big areas post-punk. Like sort of 1980 to 83 sort of thing. It's a sort of lost area in British music, post-punk, just before New Romantic came in. But the Psychedelic Furs were absolutely amazing, and their songs I know backwards. And I can't really make out. Just occasionally now I'll see a video and they'll put the lyrics out and I go, oh, that's what he's saying. Even David Bowie, 5 years, my favourite song by David Bowie. There's a line, Chev brakes are snarling, as in Chevrolet brakes. I had no idea. I'd been singing something completely different. It doesn't really matter. It's like the intent. But anyway.
It is heartbreaking that, though, when you discover the actual lyrics.
Oh, especially when it's
and
awful.
You have to recalibrate. You're like, I've never been singing it like that. It's kind of...
Yeah. I have arguments like this with my boy who's 21. He's got really old soul music taste. It's fantastic. I think I've done my job. But I'll be singing something and he'll go, it's not actually the lyrics. And I go, I've been singing like this since before you were born. So here's the lyrics.
Exactly. What is your first brilliant thing?
My first brilliant thing is, well, there are loads of brilliant things. So this is going to get me off the goth thing, because as a goth, I should say nothing is brilliant. But
that's why you were kicked out of the
community. Yeah. But actually, my first thing has a little bit of a goth tinge to it, because it's dark tourism, not tourism.
Yeah, okay, I see. Yeah.
But it's not what you'd expect, sort of thing. So,
and for those who aren't familiar with the concept, that's where you would go to see the Holocaust Museum.
Not in my case. I mean, dark tourism strictly is actually quite a sort of dark thing. It's sort of people going, I mean, no different in some ways to people that go to First World War battlefields or religious people that go and see a shroud or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hardcore dark tourism are people that really get off on murder scenes and things like that.
Right.
I'm not. For me, my version of dark tourism, basically, I was doing a lot of, after Trigger Happy, I'd started doing a lot of travel writing, and I realised that the sort of places I like going to were, I was writing for the Sunday Times a lot, but the places I was pitching, Turkmenistan, North Korea, not high on their list of like, hey, Sunday Times readers, go there.
Darling, hold my hand.
Yeah, no, it really is, yeah. And I couldn't, God, that tune has just been murdered like that now. I don't know if it does them any good or not. But anyway, I realised that and I had this book in mind. My favourite book from the 80s was by a guy called P.J. O'Rourke, who had the best job ever. He was foreign correspondent for Rolling Stone. And he wrote a book called Holidays in Hell. And he went just on holidays to places he wouldn't normally go to. I grew up in Lebanon. He went for a ramble through Lebanon and literally got Lebanon better than most old correspondents. He went to El Salvador and stuff. So I wanted to do something similar. I wanted to go to North Korea. I wanted to go to Chernobyl. I wanted to go on an assassination vacation of America. I wanted to go to the killing fields. I wanted to go skiing in Iran. And I didn't really know what it was. And then I saw this article in The Guardian, and it was about Guyana. And Guyana's like famously one of the most inhospitable countries on earth. It was where Devil's Island was, where there was some Papillon was and stuff like that. But it also was the scene of the Jonestown massacre, if you remember that. There was that Jim Jones was some cult leader, and he got kicked out of the States, and he took 800 to 1,000 people and built Jonestown in the middle of the jungle. And then when he was about to get done, he forced them all. It's where the actual expression "drink the Kool-Aid" comes from. He forced them all to drink Kool-Aid laced with cyanide, and they all died. So this is like a really grim, awful story.
Hang on, so he took Kool-Aid to Guyana?
Yeah, well, Kool-Aid actually exists in Guyana.
I apologise. I just assumed it was...
No, it's a sort of mass American, South American type thing.
Gotcha.
But I like you checking facts on that, which is good.
But I just
it's like, what do we need for our cult?
But it's almost like he had no faith in the cult.
That
was my point.
Maybe he exported
we're all going to go there. Yeah.
But let's take some Kool-Aid and cyanide just in case.
That's what I mean.
But anyway, the Minister of Tourism for Guyana, surely one of the hardest jobs in the world, was thinking, how do we bring people to Guyana? And this was in The Guardian, and he said he suddenly thought about turning the site of the Jonestown massacre, which is in the middle of nowhere, into a hotel for people to visit. And The Guardian was all sniffy and just saying, just imagine the madness of that. This is the new phase of something called dark tourism. And I remember reading it and thinking, Oh,
Sounds
I
interesting.
quite fancy that,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I realised that's what I was. I was a dark tourist. So,
Right.
so I'm sort of interested in it, but I'm much more interested. I'm not. It's not the sort of death and grave type visiting. What I'm interested in, I think, because I grew up in Lebanon, a place which, when I was living there, the civil war was going on. It was a massively famous for being a war zone, and yet I knew that it was just this stunning place that looked a bit like California and south of France. And where I lived, it was an out to the ski slopes and out to the beach. The food is amazing, and I always thought there must be other places like that that are famous just for one thing. Cambodia being a great example, famous for the killing fields, but actually an incredible place to visit. And so, dark tourism for me is about going to places where something political or historical has really happened. So I went to JFK's assassination site. Why would I go there? Why would I go and stand in a busy road in the middle of Dallas? I don't know.
Mm.
But I really feel when you're somewhere something's happened, you almost osmose it. It's like touching history. I'm a bit of a politics nerd and history nerd. So that's why I love doing it. I find it very boring. I'm not a beach person. I don't really like going and lounging around. So I need a purpose when I go somewhere. So they're like pilgrimages to me.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. I went to it's the Book Depository Museum, isn't it?
It's amazing. So my
In
favourite thing about that, I don't know, it's just changed. But when I went the first time so this is the sixth floor book depository. If you believe the mainstream media, which I do, that Lee Harvey Oswald shot him from there,
Yeah, yeah.
and that it wasn't the Cubans or the Muppets who did it or whatever. I met one bloke who actually thought he was convinced that it was suicide. JFK had shot himself, which I thought that's very complicated. But anyway, my favourite thing is when you get to
very well,
when
yeah.
you get to the glass door of the sixth floor Texas Book Museum. Basically, there were there were three rules: no photography, which is a bit annoying; no firearms. And I thought it's a little late for that,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes. Very, yeah,
Yeah.
very Texas. That. As
Well, if you'd have just thought about that a bit earlier, there'd have been
Yeah.
no need for the museum.
I tell you what, though, it's one of the fascinating things when you gig in America. I don't know if
I haven't.
but you'll go into kind of comedy clubs and theaters, and there's signs saying no firearms.
It's
and you even get a metal detector on the way into the theater
yeah,
for the audience and the performer.
that's fair enough. Because
But
how many times have you wanted to shoot the audience?
You'd
Come
have
on.
to be a pretty self-hating, you know what I mean, to literally come
Just
on and go,
sit there.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't laugh like that.
Yeah, you laugh. You don't. If you don't laugh
Yeah.
louder, you're gone. I would
Yeah.
love to do that. I mean, I grew up in Beirut, so that's not that odd for me. I'll be honest with you.
So what were you? You say you grew up in Lebanon.
Yeah.
Why was that? What was your dad, mum
Oh,
doing?
it's so complicated. The very quick story is my great grandfather did something very bad in the Peninsular War, and he sort of had to leave England in shame.
Right.
And they went to a place called Izmir, which was called Smyrna in Turkey. And at the time, it was a bit like Hong Kong. It was like an international zone. And they became merchants. I think they did really well. And during the First World War, descendants of him, they were British. They were arrested by the Ottoman Empire because the Ottomans were in alliance with the Germans. They were marched across Turkey and put in a Crusader castle on the border of Turkey and Syria, and they were there for the whole First World War. And I've got this amazing deposition that my granddad gave to the Foreign Office when he came out, because all around them was happening the Armenian Holocaust, so all this weird stuff was happening. And then when they were released in Beirut, and they set up a company there, and that's how we ended up in Beirut.
Wow.
Very weird.
Have you done? Who do you think you are?
No, I don't, because
Isn't that weird?
well, they like you not to know who you are.
Oh, I see.
And I think I know too much who I am.
I see.
I mean, I pretended. I said I have no idea, but I think
Yeah,
they
yeah,
did
yeah.
interviews, because that's my big book. Like I've written 10 books, but that's gonna be my big serious book, because that's an incredible story. But I have to wait for 2 members of my family to die first, because they're quite.
That's nice and cheery. So you are a goth.
I'm a total goth. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
it's good news and bad news, isn't it?
True,
Yeah.
true.
Can I ask a categorization issue about dark tourism?
Yeah.
Sure.
Pompeii, dark tourism or not?
Really interesting that, because actually I was talking
Frankie
about.
Howard really changed it.
No, but actually that's genuinely really interesting, because I did this. So, for instance, I went on a Jack the Ripper tour. Yeah. Now, if you think about that, what are we doing here? We're like walking around the East End, seeing where a serial killer eviscerated prostitutes. But apparently, because that's over 100 years ago, that's fine. You did a Yorkshire Ripper tour, that would just be a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I would say it's light dark tourism. It's historical dark tourism, but really interesting, because obviously the reason you go there is you want to see the bodies frozen, and I went there and loved it. Well, the Herculaneum better.
I know what you mean, though. It is that thing. Like I often think with a holiday, the aim of it is to make you realise how much you enjoy your life. So if you go on a traditional holiday, you go right after a week of this, you know, I'm recharged. I'm ready to go back to my
Do you
existence.
think? Because I think a lot of people do that. Oh, why am I living? I do. Why am I living in England when everything's much cheaper here and I could live here? And they all want to stay on their holiday.
That's interesting. No, I
Maybe you
don't-
like your life more than I do.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I never get. But well, what I was trying to ask is whether you don't have that, whether you kind of if you're kind of going somewhere and you're acquiring new knowledge. Do you know what I mean?
So what's the question? Do I like?
So
do I
what-
prefer being on the road rather than at home?
I guess no, what I was going to ask is what is it about a traditional holiday that just does nothing for you? As in like a fly and flop, sit down, kind of sit in the beach by.
Because I think I did a lot of that, and it was all right. But I don't know. I mean, I'm probably the last person in Britain probably to self-diagnose of ADHD. I don't know what I've got, but I don't like sitting around. I get restless. I get bored, and also there's nothing I like more than doing stuff like travel, which is technically a holiday, but it's work as well. I like that,
Yeah.
So I like working.
Yes. So what kind of drew you? Because people wouldn't like. You're massively famous for Trigger Happy.
For dressing as a squirrel.
It's funny though, isn't it? And then, so were you? What came first, the sort of obsession with travel, or did this sketch show just appeared in your head? What was the?
Oh, so comedy came completely by chance for me. So I think most people do stupid stuff normally first, and then they get more serious. I was serious. Like in my 20s, I was a diplomat in Prague. I was there when Czechoslovakia split up, probably responsible for it because I was a rubbish diplomat. I worked at ITN as a producer. Like I had a pass to Westminster, which is insane that they let me in there. And so I'd always, when I grew up in Lebanon, there were 4 things really that you looked at and thought, well, that's what I want to be: diplomat, spy, foreign correspondent, and travel writer. I might have been all 4, might have not. And I just always, travel writing to me was like this romantic thing. I read all the great travel writers, Patrick Leigh Fermor and Freya Stark. I was obsessed with that. And my parents were very literary in that way. And it was like that was a real cool thing to do. And we used to go off on expeditions into the Syrian desert. So I always thought I'd love to be that or a foreign correspondent. And then my life just, I've had no plan in my life at all. And then Trigger Happy really did almost happen by mistake. And then once Trigger Happy happened, it opened all these doors for me. So suddenly the Sunday Times said, would you like to write an article? And the first article I wrote, I'd read this amazing article about the tallest redwood in Northern California. And what's interesting about Northern California is even though it's in California, it's just like it's a rogue place, and it's full of like wild people growing hash and stuff. And the tallest redwood in the world is in the middle of a hash plantation. So if you want to visit it, you get blindfolded and taken. The story was so amazing, and then climbing up this. So I went beyond the redwood curtain and wrote that article. And I think the Sunday Times liked it. They started taking me on more and more. And I thought, God, this is what I love doing. So if you ask me right now, what would if there was one thing, because I do so many different things, if there's one thing you could do, it would be travel right.
Yeah.
But I need to kill Bill Bryson first.
Which again, given the way that murder is such a people love it.
What murder?
Yeah, that feels like that's
Richard
the Netflix-
Osman's new show.
Exactly.
The
How's
Travel
that-
Writers Murder
it
Club.
combines so many things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's true crime and there's travel.
Well, my
But the only problem, there's no who done it because we know it's you.
Yeah, that's right. My publisher told me that the 2 things, if you want a real big hit book, it's Nazis and cats. That's the 2 things you need.
Yeah.
So My Cat the Nazi is coming out next year, which is great.
Exactly.
No, it's not. But
and you get your Nazi cat to kill Bill Bryson
that would be amazing.
in I don't know.
In an old people in a cat in the Bassey Dogs Home
Yeah, or I was going to say somewhere peculiar that you've never been, and then it's perfect.
in Guyana, in Jonestown.
There you
go. Yeah. All right, that's my
Yeah,
idea,
yeah,
right?
no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
God, I'm really enjoying this. Before we move on to the next thing, growing up in Lebanon, when was the first time you saw a squirrel and thought I could do a sketch about that?
You see, that's really weird. So squirrels, firstly, there are no squirrels in Lebanon for a start. So squirrels.
That's my point.
Squirrels were quite a big excitement for me. But the first squirrels I saw were red squirrels, actually. And I was very interested in the great red squirrel, grey squirrel wars of the early 1700s. So that was quite good. I don't know when I thought about squirrels. Weirdly, I'm sure we'll get onto this, but I'm doing a 25th anniversary celebration of Trigger Happy. And as part of that, Sam, who I made Trigger Happy with, is very different from me. He's right on the spectrum, sort of guy that rearranges his CD collections in colours and stuff like that. And he found a whole lot of rushes. And one of the rushes from our pilot, like we had no idea what we were doing when we were making Trigger Happy, but actually the pilot, which was a 15-minute comedy lab, sort of had all the building blocks of what Trigger Happy was going to be. And the first building block was the squirrel and where those fluffy costume ideas came from. And I thought about it for long and hard, and I realised where it came from. It was the Wombles. Because if people ask me, what's the first album you ever bought? I go, oh, you're probably Low by David Bowie, because I'm very into the sort of Berlin heroin period. The truth is, my first album was the Wombles. They rocked. And they were these clean, nice, lovely things who looked a bit like squirrels. You remember they were on Wimbledon Common and they kept things clean. So the first sketch I ever thought of for Trigger Happy was, wouldn't it be funny if a Womble was having a savage, nervous breakdown on Wimbledon Common and littering? So that's what we did. So I don't know if that's the answer to your thing, but I kind of felt I've never really seen a squirrel.
The other thing I was thinking about you is presumably it must be very difficult for you to take any kind of phone call in public. I was thinking about that the other day. Of like, particularly if you're struggling with your service, but in a similar way, if I saw you on the phone struggling, it would instantly be funny. In the same way, if you saw Craig David on a date on a Sunday, like it would be like,
Honestly, I get this all the time. So on trains, it's my absolute nightmare.
It must be horrific.
So firstly, I have to think: do I go with it, and do I just have that ringtone so when it goes off, everyone's happy, or do I have it on soft vibrate? And then when I answer, I tend to be overly, so I'm just like, hello. I really, and everyone's going, look at him like that. And,
you can't win.
But there is part of me just wanting to just scream into it, and everyone's like, oh right, it wasn't a character. Yeah. He's just a twat. Like that. I'll tell you my favourite story about Trigger Happy with the phone is like I didn't realise how big Trigger Happy happened like overnight. Just because I wasn't aware of it. It was the first thing I'd given in, and we gave it into Channel 4, and it went out because it's the 25th anniversary. It went out on the 14th of January 2000. I remember this because Victor Lewis Smith wrote the most amazing review he ever wrote in the Standard, saying by far the greatest comedy show of the millennium so far. It was 14 days in, but that's fine. I always take the so far off. So anyway, the show went out on Friday, and then on the Monday, I remember I was on a train going from London to Oxford, and no one knew I was on that carriage. And that ringtone, because the joy, when I chose that ringtone, it was Grand Valse. I hated it. It was awful. But in between filming and Trigger Happy going out, Nokia, nothing to do with us, took Grand Valse and made it the Nokia tune. So if you didn't change your Nokia ringtone, it went off. And it became like a subliminal ad for Trigger Happy. But anyway, that ringtone went off, and 3 people on the carriage, this is 3 days after the first Trigger Happy, stood up and went, hello, I'm on a train. And I was like, fucking hell, what has happened? And it's been very weird since. I don't think there's been a single day, I swear to you. Just now, when I was walking down there, bloke just shouted, hello, I'm in King's Cross, it's rubbish. Every fucking day. I was in Pyongyang in North Korea. I think I was the only Western tourist there. But then the only other Western tourist saw me and went, I'm in North Korea, it's rubbish. It's just weird.
It's fascinating, way, how that just...
And still, nobody's ever asked me to do an ad. Like, isn't that weird for phones? I think
that is strange.
I think I'm a threat to them. It's like, I can tell you what the ad is if you're listening. It's me being a twat, and then you literally go, don't be a twat, use our phones. That's it. Yeah. Isn't that weird, though?
It's very strange.
Yeah.
Because you would have thought they'd have been...
all over it. Yeah, well, I spoke to someone ages ago at Vodafone. I bumped into them somewhere, and they said, oh, yeah, we always saw you as a threat. Like, what we shouldn't be. I go, yeah, that's why you do clever advertising. But anyway, if you're listening... definitely up for it.
Nice. What's the next brilliant thing?
Next brilliant thing is, I don't know why I chose this, but I kind of do sandwiches.
Makes sense.
I think very few things in life give me more pleasure than a great sandwich. And what I love about the sandwich, it's a little bit of a link to dark tourism, is that every country really on earth I can think of has their own variety of sandwich. And almost all of them are absolutely brilliant, except for America. I would say America, the whole subculture in America. Yeah. America constantly exists as though they've just come out of a great famine, which maybe they did back in the Depression, but so everything is just about size. So when you get to America, you're like, holy crap, look at this, it's amazing. But it's mostly tasteless and not great. I know I'm exaggerating, there are some great
things. Have we called the hamburger America's addition to the sandwich?
No, but there's also...
Interesting, is that a sandwich?
Isn't there a Chicago... This is like the Jaffa cake thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But isn't there... There's one in... Isn't it in Chicago it's like beef and it's kind of like whiz, the cheese sauce?
No, you're talking about the Philly cheesesteak.
Philly cheesesteak.
Okay, now that, you're quite right. I think it's one of the world's great sandwiches.
That's what I mean.
Because I love the cheese whiz.
Yeah, and you also dunk it in like a gravy.
Yeah. It's a beef dip. Yeah, it's a French dip.
That's right.
So the Philly cheesesteak I've had in Philly, And
Insane.
you're quite right. Yeah, that is a great American sandwich. I take that back. And I think they can probably lay claim to inventing the BLT. Done properly. That might be wrong. I don't know. I just love sandwiches of every form. I just weirdly, my daughter.
Let's go through your top 5.
Oh, okay. This is going to freak people out. Okay, so my top sandwich.
Yep.
It's just going to disgust people.
Right.
But it's crispy, proper French baguette, like a really good French baguette, grated, aged cheddar cheese, and then rings of raw onion
Okay.
and ketchup.
Wow.
It's unbeatable. And when I was at school, we had a tuck shop, and that was the only sandwich available. And I just was addicted. Like I think.
So is it a nostalgia thing?
No,
or
it's just
you like the
I
taste?
literally I'm thinking about it now.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, but you know what's sad about it and probably good. Like normally I think, right, when I finish this to celebrate, I'm going to go and get myself one of those.
Yeah.
There's nowhere doing it at all.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
going to say
probably for a reason, but
it kind of does it have a name? Like, do you know what I mean? And what would you?
no, it doesn't. It's so weird. It just most people I tell it disgusts them. But if I give it to them, it's delicious. They love it. But
No,
I kind of love that sort of stuff.
Dan, straight away I could see you.
Well, it's about the
Piping up.
definition of what a sandwich is. It depends where you are. The US are very slapdash about what is a sandwich.
Well, talk to me about open top sandwiches. What the hell is that
Well,
about?
Yeah.
in the UK, according to the British Sandwich Association,
Yeah.
you can't have a hot filling.
Oh,
if it's
really?
going to be a sandwich.
I think that's fair enough.
off.
No, I think that's
No.
well.
Don't come at me because
Yeah.
this is just the messenger.
Yeah.
And in the US, they will have hot anything. They're
US will do
pretty-
anything.
They're
Yeah,
pretty loose all round.
Scumbags. They've got
Yeah,
no idea.
But technically, like, what's the like a banh mi? That's kind of hot.
So very interesting. Banh mi, again, one of the great French. So if we're talking the top fives, banh mi is obviously it's a French rip-off because it was a French colony. But a banh mi is essentially a baguette with just incredible everything you love that's Asian inside it. I think French sandwiches are the purest in the sense that it's all about the bread, really. And there is nothing. I've just been in France this summer, and just going to like your local boulangerie, you just literally just a slice of ham, some mustard, butter, and a baguette, and that's all you need. Like, there's nothing better than that. But then there's complicated ones like Lebanon, where I grew up again, so it's a nostalgic sandwich is called an arous, and an arous is basically Lebanese bread. So that's not pita bread, that's Lebanese thin bread, and there's a difference. And it wrapped up, and you'd have my sort of comfort one would be labneh, which is a kind of weird cream cheese, but it's not cream cheese; it's strained yogurt with za'atar, which is a kind of it's thyme, basically. It's ground thyme. It's something that goes on everything: olive oil, tomatoes, and black olives. Now, again, those things have to be really fresh, but that, to me, like, that's what I'd have. And then there's another thing called a manouchi, which I think is the last thing that hasn't been rolled out in a chain. Which, if I had the money, I would start a manouchi thing. A manouchi is like a Lebanese pizza, but it's a breakfast thing. And it basically comes with za'atar on top, which is have you got a breakdown of za'atar
Yeah,
there?
za'atar is dried herbs, toasted sesame seeds, sumac. And
Sumac, that's right. So it's sumac, thyme, dried, and it's just the greatest herb on. I could talk about in fact, I'm really glad I chose sandwiches because it's making me hungry. But I just love sandwiches.
Do you have a crisp that goes with the sandwich?
Okay, so this
What
is
would
great.
be your ideal meal deal?
So it's salt and vinegar. Well,
Nice and
I like
standard.
really artificial. So pickled onion monster munches I like because no one wants to take those.
Yep.
And if I'm on my own, I put them on as rings.
Yes,
because you can put them over your fingers. I do like
Proper breakdown shit.
Yeah. You know, really. And then I slowly eat them off my fingers. Salt and vinegar discos I really
Yeah,
like.
they
So
don't
I'm
muck about.
all about salt and vinegar. And then I'll have a full fat Coke
Yeah.
and probably a BLT. That's or a prawn cocktail. I like
Yeah.
a really good prawn cocktail, which is good.
No, I'm totally with you on sandwiches. Big fan. Big.
Yeah.
Like I've said it before on the pod. I'll say it again. I like a cold sausage egg mayo sandwich. Nice and
Now, egg mayo and ketchup, I really like. Sausage, always. A really, I mean, there's nothing like a really good bacon bap in the morning, like
Yes.
with ketchup and brown. But there's nothing more depressing, and this is what sums up Britain. You just open up the bap, and inside is like half a rasher, and
Yeah.
it just makes you angry for the rest of
and
the
it's
day.
that weird kind of like microwave bacon.
Yeah,
that
just
it's kind of
do it properly. That
yeah.
awful Starbucks thing is now like 48 quid or whatever for a bacon bap that they take out the cellophane and whap into some weird microwave. It's like no one needs that.
Yes.
Just builder's stuff. It's great. Greg's is why Greg's is good. Crisp, I get excited about this. Yeah.
I'm glad. Have you got a breakdown of like top 5 sandwiches? Danny?
We've done top
That's
5
interesting.
before.
Uh-huh.
Some unusual sandwiches from history.
Okay.
Go on.
Oyster sandwich with Tabasco and lemon juice.
Oh, I'd kill for that. Well, I love that. On brown rye bread, I'd definitely do that. Although I'd probably open top on that, but okay, fair enough.
1930s, a yeast sandwich, cakes of compacted yeast.
Okay, no,
Okay.
we're going to leave that one. Thanks.
Okay.
There's lots of obvious jokes there, but I'm not going there.
1916, a pickle sandwich.
What? Just pickle?
Just pickles.
Well, cheese and pickle, like a great, just a whole ploughman's in a sandwich.
So
It's
without
great.
the cheese, would you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about pickles, so yeah, love pickles.
Mrs. Beaton
She knew her
recommended
stuff.
a toast sandwich.
A toast
Just
sandwich.
toast.
So a piece of toast
Yeah.
in between 2 pieces of bread.
I think that was what we call rationing.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Mrs. Beaton, a lot of fun. She really was.
And 1909, the popcorn sandwich with 5 sardines.
Oh, okay.
What a combo.
Interesting.
Popcorn and sardines.
Can we just backtrack to crisps? Because I think one of our great additions to the world is adding the crisp into the sandwich.
Yeah.
Because I need a crunch. And so
Yeah, I
sometimes I like a crunchy sandwich. I've got crunchy bread. But if you've got soft bread and you've got something like prawn cocktail, which I love, you need a crisp.
Yep.
And so to put the crisp layer in, honestly, talking that to an American, they look crazy. And then you give it to them. There's quite a few TikTok sites where you have annoying Americans who've been here for 2 months and already speaking in a really rubbish Cockney accent, telling you about beans on toast and stuff. And I saw one of them put crisps in the sandwich, and the comments section was like she just wanted to assassinate Trump, but actually she liked it. So.
Yeah, it's incredible. But that's where your McCoy's really comes into its own.
McCoy's?
Yeah, McCoy's crisps.
Why?
Just because they're lovely and crunchy.
Oh no,
Really?
aren't they the crinkly ones?
Yeah.
No, I can't do that.
Why?
It has to be straight.
Yeah, but that's got. If you're after crunch.
No, I can't have a crinkle.
Okay.
Sorry.
Why
Please.
is that?
Well, it's
You'll
just-
have a crunch, but not a crinkle. But surely a crinkle crunches.
I don't like a crinkle. I like a crunch. I like a straight crunch. No, can't explain this. Just I am the way God made me.
Isn't
See,
the
but
the crinkle is crunching.
Yes, but I don't like the texture of the crinkle.
But see, this is. I think I was discussing this off air with Dan the other day, and this is why politicians have such a tough time. Because we are divided by so many things in this country.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? We were nearly together on crisps, and
Yeah.
now we found
Yeah.
a subdivision
Yeah,
of
yeah.
crinkles and crunch.
I'm actually going to organise a demonstration outside this outside tonight.
What we need to find is areas of agreement that we can all coalesce around. So
Yeah,
no
so
hula
nothing
hoops
gets
in the
done.
sandwich.
No, what will end up? Oh no, I like a hula hoop in
I
a
was
sandwich.
gonna say,
Salt and vinegar.
I
No,
don't
because
mind
if
that.
we coalesce, what you end up with is the interior of the Eurostar, which is grey and yellow that no one wanted, but that's the only thing everyone could agree on.
But if we pursue this, then people will be hanging Pringles off of bridges.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because it's their right.
Fly the Pringles.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what, it's very useful that though now to find areas that I don't want to be in. It's really good driving through. I
Yeah,
was
it's
just-
really funny, isn't it? It's sort of you go,
better lock the windows here.
Yeah, I didn't. Oh.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
There was, even in Cheltenham, my leafy, nice place in the middle of the Cotswolds, which I get accused of moving to because I didn't like foreigners, which is not the case, but there you go. There's someone found one little roundabout and painted it. That's just become a massive scandal in Cheltenham.
The thing that I found fascinating about it is because the idea is that people are putting up flags because they're patriotic.
Yeah.
But it's like, who gets patriotic on a roundabout?
Okay, so you know the great saying for it is tragic roundabouts, which is a great name for it.
Yeah.
I mean, firstly, I have no time for flags. Having grown up in Lebanon, I've been shot at by every person, every movement and country in the Middle East. So I just hate flags. But it is a really interesting thing that they're doing because it is a difficult thing because they're clearly politicising it. They're clearly doing it as a sort of intimidatory, foreigners not welcome. And yet, if you challenge them, they go, what? You don't like your country? So they've almost got themselves into a clever thing.
But surely one of the things that makes us British is that you go, no, not really.
Yeah, well,
you don't love this country.
No, but they go
Nothing is
crazy.
shit.
Yeah. No.
But that's what makes us British.
Yeah,
You
but
go,
no, that's what makes you a lefty twat,
Yeah,
like that,
exactly.
and that's the problem. And I mean, welcome to my Facebook comments section, really.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Right. What is the next brilliant thing? Lovely combo. Dark tourism sandwiches. What's the third?
We're going cliff jumping.
Okay. Nice.
So it's something I can't explain, but and a lot of people do it. And depending on what country you're in, it's either known as tombstoning, which is a sort of darker version of it, or cliff jumping. But ever since I can remember, like one of the biggest thrills in my life is jumping off rocks into rivers, into lakes. I just loved it. Like Lebanon's got these amazing rivers, and like on Sundays we used to go up this amazing valley called Paradise Valley, and my dad used to allow me to go to like the rock, and he'd go in to the river below and like show me. You always had to test where you jumped, which you do very much so. And then once that was ready, I'd jump, and he'd be like, "You did it!" And I was just, I don't know, it was just like oh my god, my dad's proud of me, but I loved it, and it was a thrill. And you think, what am I doing? This is not a normal thing to do. And then that turned into something in my life. So every summer I go to Canada because my wife's Canadian. We go to these lakes called the Muskoka Lakes, which is 3 hours north of Toronto. And there are because it's Canada, it's so organised. So you'll go to an island in the middle of a lake, nothing there, but a Canadian will have drawn how high the jump is. There'll be a rope. It's quite organised. So ever since I was a kid, ever since I had kids, I've kind of encouraged them to jump off cliffs, which is not probably a great parental thing. But I probably have forced them, and maybe they didn't want to do it, but they do all love it. So I've got pictures of my kids jumping off the same cliffs from the age of 4 was the first time she jumped. It was quite a small cliff. And it's a family thing. It's me, my son, my daughter, all jumping off cliffs into beautiful water and screaming with delight, while my wife, who's Canadian and sensible, sits on the boat going, "You don't have to do it. Don't let him force you." Yeah. So I don't know. It's just something I totally feel free. And every time I go somewhere when I'm traveling, I always ask around, it's not a cliff jumping place around here. And almost,
I love that. So, but
yeah,
they presumably must think you're right up there on the suicide watch.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you're doing dark tours.
Yeah.
Anywhere to jump?
Yeah. So when I get there, the immigration guy goes, "What's your reason for visiting?" And I go, "Couple of things. I've got some grave sites to visit. I would like to go and see the scene of a mass suicide. And then, what's your cliff jumping situation?" Yeah.
But so is it just the adrenaline? Because I guess in many ways, your water park is your kind of like your safe, sort of mainstream version of cliff jumping.
See, I hate water parks because I don't. What I like is it's sort of about finding. It's a ritual, like it's about finding the right place.
Yeah.
And then you look at the cliff and you sort of stroke your chin and you think, yeah, I think it's doable. You know, as an experienced cliff jumper, then you have to climb up it and find a safe way up it, and then you have to go back down, you go into the water, and I dive around to check that there's no rocks. Because
wow, so it's proper.
Oh, you have to, because I know people, genuinely, I mean, joking aside, I know people that have dived off rocks and, hit a rock and they're disabled. So I'm not an idiot. I don't want to do that. And certainly I'm getting my kids to jump. But it's kind of all that's part of it. And then finally you get up to the top and you just have that moment where you're standing there, and from down, it doesn't look big, but the moment you're standing there, it looks unbelievable. Yeah, right. And then you launch and it's fantastic. And this, I got asked to do a show called Splash about 12 years ago, which was the high diving show with Tom Joly. And I thought, I don't really want to do a reality show called Splash. But then I thought, because I can dive or I jump. But often if you're at a slightly populated cliff, there's some little 14-year-old comes up and does a double, triple flip. And I thought, wow, cool would that be if Tom Joly teaches me to do a couple of flips, and next time I'm there, I could be cool dad. So I end up doing the show, and it was just a nightmare. Tom Joly turned up for about 5 minutes twice, and it was an absolute nightmare. And I did go off the 10-meter board a couple of times doing a dive, and then on the actual night of the show, I thought, I'm going to do this because everyone will think I won't be able to do it. And I went into a weird panic zone. I remember going up 10-meter, and when you're at the top of a 10-meter, it is high. And who was up there? Vernon Kay was interviewing me as I was about to go, and all I was thinking was jump up and down. And Vernon Kay was interviewing me, and I had an out-of-body experience and left the live interview, went to the edge, and literally just fell. And as I was falling live on telly, I could feel myself flipping round. I was going to land on my back, and I thought, this is it. This is how I'm going to die in Essex, live on television because of Tom Joly. I hit the water. I've never been in so much pain, and I came up. And I looked, and my daughter and my wife were just doing the cutthroat sign, like, "Oh, not good, not good." Yeah. So I don't know, but so I never learnt to flip. But I like adrenaline.
Who is the name of? I remember seeing one of it, and she went off the side. She was in bottom. She was like, she's got very blue eyes.
Oh,
comedy actress.
Helen Lederer.
Helen Lederer.
I love Helen.
Yeah. So that's my.
Didn't she go off the side of the pool? That's all she did.
That's it. So she went off the side of the pool. I remember watching it at home, and it was like, I don't know if you've ever like dropped a turd off a spade.
Yeah.
But it was sort
just
of like
slid off. Yeah.
But it was the most extraordinary thing. But they were still doing that kind of, come on, Helen.
Yeah, come on, Helen. You can do it.
You
You can fall into the water.
It was extraordinary.
There are things I learnt about high diving there that I didn't realise. So, for instance, I don't know if you know, but water, obviously, from a certain height becomes like concrete, and you can hurt yourself very badly.
Yeah.
So they oxygenate the water. I don't know if you know that. In high diving, they basically bubble. So if you see people doing cliff jumping on TikTok or whatever, they always throw a stone before they go down. That sort of breaks the surface of the water. I don't know how scientific it is, but in the actual, when you're diving on high dives, they oxygenate and bubble the water, and it breaks it up, makes it less. Secondly, when you're going down, certainly from 10 meters, the way you're supposed to hold, it's not like putting both hands out forward. You're supposed to hold your fingers, because the danger is when you go into the water, it rips your shoulder blades back, and that's the worst thing. And you absolutely can rip your shoulder blades off. So it's for pretty tough people, to be honest, Russell.
Yeah. So what do you have certain places that you're like outside of Canada where you're like, I want to go there because there's going to be a good cliff jump there?
I haven't gone into that detail, but occasionally I see TikTok things, like there's lots in Canada, but there's lots in America, South America. I just see them and I think, oh, I'd kill to do that. But some people are jumping into quarries and stuff. I'm like, no. Other people jumping off bridges, 35 meters. I'm like, no. I think the one I'd really like to do, and I nearly did it, I was in one of my favorite European countries that's very under-visited, which is Bosnia-Herzegovina. Sarajevo, it's my dark tourism. I went there for the centenary of the assassination, because, hey, we had to celebrate it, of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And I went to Sarajevo to stand on the spot where he was shot and stuff, and I really enjoyed Sarajevo. But on your way up is Mostar, and Mostar during the Bosnian War was divided. Like, one side was Muslims, one side was Christians, and it has this beautiful old bridge that they blew up in the war, and it was like a real tragedy. Well, they're ever for the last 200 years, there's been a club in Mostar that are the bridge divers, and they have a little clubhouse in the bridge. They've rebuilt the bridge, and they're there in tiny little Speedos. That's what put me off actually doing the dive, was the Speedos, not the thing. And then they dive into the water and tourists watch. So I think if there's one I wanted to do that's like scenic and beautiful and historical, it'd be that one.
Yeah, sounds great.
I think if you do your genealogy, you might find a lemming in there somewhere.
Yes, that's interesting. Everything I've done career-wise has been pretty suicidal, so I think that's fine, yeah.
Fascinating. What's the next brilliant thing?
Next brilliant thing is documentaries.
Okay.
Documentaries make me happy like nothing else. It's weird. For someone that's in comedy, I don't really watch comedy at all. I mean, I kind of love a good American Curb Your Enthusiasm or, Spinal Tap, something like that. But and even that's mock documentaries and stuff. But I love documentaries. There's two things that make me happiest in the world. Seeing the company name Dogwoof come up. I know it's going to be a good documentary because I don't know what they are. They're publishers of documentaries. But Storyville, BBC Storyville, which as far as I can tell, it's a series, but they basically get the greatest documentaries from around the world and just collate them. And every time a new Storyville drops, I will watch it, whether it's about Mongolian eagle hunters or the history of O.J. Simpson or about happy hunters in Bhutan. I will watch it. I love documentaries. I love reality. I think that's why I liked doing Trigger Happy. I was never, if you're in comedy and you're smart, you're supposed to be like write screenplays or sitcoms or stuff like, or be a great stand-up. That was never for me. Like, I loved Candid Camera when I was a kid, not the English one, but really early 60s Candid Camera. I like reality. I like stuff in the 20th century onwards that I can see on film. I just love documentaries.
Yeah, I hear you. It's very hard to sort of pin down like your favourites, but I often, I remember watching Senna, and I'm not. See, this it's insane.
Well, Senna's really.
I'm not even a huge.
Nor am I.
Sort of GP.
Yes, but that's the mark of a great documentary. If you can get interested. I mean, Senna was really interesting because it was one of the first documentaries where they use that style where there's no talking heads or anything. They're just using footage, which is really good.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
I always think about what my favourite docs are, and they change all the time. But I mean, top ones: Man on Wire, which I don't know if you've ever seen.
Extraordinary.
So extraordinary.
Yeah.
Trigger Happy was all about this thing called For the Beauty, which was basically the stuff we did that no one ever saw. Where it was just that made us laugh. And that was the ultimate For the Beauty. This is a French guy who saw the World Trade Center being built and thought, I'm going to tightrope warp across it. And he didn't even film it. Like, he just, the amount of stuff they went into. Yeah. And then they just took a couple of photographs, which still made me vertiginous. Yeah. And then he had an affair on his girlfriend afterwards in such a French way.
Well, that's what's extraordinary about it.
Yeah.
Is that basically he would train for it.
Yeah.
So he had all these kind of like tight ropes between like trees in France, and his girlfriend is just doting on him. And then
she
he does it, and he just bangs
the
someone
first
else.
thing he does is
Yeah, yeah.
bangs a journalist when he comes down. It's amazing. Then
yeah.
can I talk about documentaries because I love them so much? The other one, The Greatest Storyville, and I think if you ever wanted a history of America, it's basically. I don't know what the exact name is. Maybe you can look it up. But it's OJ Made in America. And it's 5 2-hour documentaries, which basically charts the rise and fall and the whole OJ stuff, but also manages to incorporate everything.
Yeah.
The civil rights and America.
Yeah.
It is such if no one's seen that, just go and watch OJ Made in America. My other one, and this is, I think, the greatest thing I've ever seen, was Peter Jackson's Get Back. The Peter Jackson 7-hour. He found all the footage from the Beatles film, the last Beatles film, and basically took it. And you watch it, and it's like watching 7 hours. You're back in time. You're watching things like Paul McCartney trying to work out Get Back, and you know the lyrics, and he doesn't. And meanwhile, Ringo and George are chatting in the corner, and Yoko Ono is sitting with a newspaper right in the middle of the band. There's a moment where Peter Sellers walks in, my total hero. I've got his death mask on my library wall because I'm a goth. Peter Sellers walks in, and it was very famously that he was incredibly funny, but as a person, he was like a hollow shell. And he comes in, he's just so awkward and awful. And then you see the whole build up to that rooftop concert. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating about you, that you basically become like, you know, you're the fifth member, and you're kind of sat there watching. And
you're just shouting at Yoko, "Get out the room! What are you doing there?"
And they're all eating tea and toast, so much tea and toast and fags.
And they're smoking like it goes out of the business. They have loads of tea. They have a guy called Mel who was there, Mel, I love. And he's always bringing the thing. And then occasionally they get wine, and it's like Blue Nun. It's just so, even when they're talking to people on the street who are watching up at the concert on the roof, it's a real, just captures that moment in London. I think it's the most phenomenal thing ever.
And what I love about it as well is there's two things I really adore about it. It's the look that Paul McCartney gives to the guy who comes up with the idea of doing the gig on the roof.
Yeah,
like it's this like you can just see his, you know, and you realise that he was the kind of Roy Keane of the Beatles. That he was the let's get it done. The second thing, is it from a creative point of view. You see him come up with Get Back in seconds. And then the whole documentary is about perfecting the kind of strike of lightning. It's what's the right, and it's just that kind of Wallace and Gromit inching forward, kind of just making it, and it's slowly making it perfect.
I totally agree. And for me, I'm such a Beatles fan, and I always thought John Lennon was the genius, I have to say. And then you watch that and you see Paul McCartney. But I do think you're watching a period where John Lennon's on heroin at that stage, and he's deep into Yoko. So maybe Paul McCartney took over a little bit. But what's interesting is the sum of their parts. Oh, yeah. That's, everyone takes the piss out of Ringo, like, what a bad drummer. He's an amazing drummer. It's the little bits that are amazing. And also George Harrison, just permanently grumpy, permanently pissed off with something. There's a moment where he actually leaves the Beatles on the documentary, and he wrote in his diary that day, left the Beatles, which I love. I'm just obsessed with it.
But it's also that thing where that Ringo is so steady and this just perfect, like, amiable guy. John and Paul are in love with each other, but hate each other. And George Harrison is desperate to get in and have a threesome. And like, no, we only fuck each other.
That's right.
So, it's all this perfect mesh. Yeah, and the fact is, like you say, it hasn't been dramatized.
No,
you're privy to it.
But it hasn't been edited as well. I know people who watched it go, they were bored. I go, bored. I could have watched another 12 hours of
funny.
that.
It really, it's a bit. Have you seen No Direction Home, the Bob Dylan one?
Yeah.
But it's a similar thing where there's something about the hang of a documentary.
The hotel room hang. It's the fly on the wall. I mean, it's D.A. Pennebaker. He made the Ziggy Stardust one. But Beatles speaking, my new book I've just finished is on the pursuit of happiness. And as part of it, I went to Rishikesh in India to sort of see whether yoga and that type, and it was not for me at all. It's not a goth pursuit. But I went to the Maharishi's compound, which is where the Beatles famously went in '68, and I didn't realise, but wrote most of the White Album there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they sat there. So, for instance, Dear Prudence is all about Mia Farrow's sister, Prudence, who was there, and she was so into meditation, she'd never come out and sort of hang with them. So it's Dear Prudence, won't you come out and play and stuff like that.
Wow.
And it's where George Harrison really started to get into the sitar, and it literally influenced so much of like Indian fashions, baggy pants. The whole of the 70s came from that trip to there. But when I was talking about dark tourism and going somewhere where you kind of feel something amazing happened in the air.
Yeah.
Oh, that place is amazing.
Yeah, man. They are great. Like, have you seen the Zen Diaries of Gary Shandling?
Gary Shandling is just.
Have you seen that?
Oh my utter
God.
hero.
Yeah. But that again, it's sort of what I love about that. It's like where you like a really good doc where you just get to see the essence of somebody.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
warts and all, but it is that not cleverly fast cut doc. It's one which just rolls.
Yes.
And it's and what's weird about all those docs is the further away in time you get, the more fascinating it is, because it is like you're time traveling. It's amazing.
That's exactly what they are, right?
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
kind of-
even
you're time traveling on your sofa.
I mean, even weirdly, I'm not doing this to bring it back to a promotion, but because I've been doing this 25th anniversary of Trigger, we've been looking at rushes, of Trigger Happy, and it's 25 years ago, and you're suddenly thinking, I'm suddenly watching days in my life 25 years ago that you've totally forgotten about, and a London that kind of has changed because every time I come to London now, new buildings up or gone. I just love that looking back in time. It's amazing.
What is there off the beaten track doc that you would recommend?
I've seen two recently, and you might have to help me looking them up. One is about a guy who started collecting Pez dispensers, and for some reason Pez goes out of business in the US. And so he starts going to, I think it's Austria or somewhere, the last place that makes it. And this sounds like the dullest thing ever. And he becomes a kind of Pez dispenser smuggler, smuggling them into. It's so incredible. Have you got the name of it?
The Pez Outlaw.
That's it, the Pez Outlaw. Honestly, just watch it. It's so brilliant. And then, because I'm obsessed with America, there's an incredible series called The Roosevelts, which is like a 7-part series. And it starts with Teddy Roosevelt, who was this kind of, guy that fought in Cuba and then became president. And he's actually responsible for the great American national parks and stuff. And then you've got LBJ, who was president during World War II, but who you just didn't realize was totally disabled. But every time you saw him, he was either standing out on calipers or he'd always wave from cars. But the guy was totally disabled. He had polio, but it was absolutely amazing. And then it finishes with Eleanor Roosevelt, who became this incredible sort of feminist icon afterwards. It's just amazing, really amazing.
Right. What's the next brilliant thing?
Carhartt. Now, this is a weird one because I'm not here to promote a brand.
Sure.
But I've had clothing issues all my life. I'm wearing today, I'm actually not wearing a Carhartt shirt, I'm wearing Dickies today, but I have 2 jackets and 2 trousers that when I was watching my Trigger Happy rushes, I was wearing the same thing back then. I love Carhartt as a brand because I've refused to grow up. I think there's a moment where you think, I should wear sensible shoes and maybe start dressing like a gentleman.
Yes.
And I just can't. I'm 57 years old and I dress like a sort of unemployed surfer. But I can't wear anything else, but it makes me happy. And sometimes when I'm abroad, I'll judge someone. Like if I bump into someone, and often people get in touch with me online, and I don't know, I'm in Turkmenistan. They go, "Oh, I'm a photographer in Turkmenistan. If you want me to show you around, And I think, well, I don't know, he could be a serial killer. If he rocks up and he's wearing Carhartt trousers, I'm like, welcome to the club. You're fine. I don't know what it is. I'm not here looking for free Carhartt stuff. It's more about the costume. It's more about your identity. And I've done very weird things because I think I have friends who don't have kids. And so that you do tend to drift into old age without having had to make a change. Now, I've had kids. Now, that definitely I got married. I had kids. Those are moments that force you to reassess where you are, maybe change your behavior a little bit. But my clothing has been exactly the same. And I can't explain it.
What's funny is I don't know if you've ever had this where occasionally have you had sort of agents or whatever suggest stylists or anything like that to you?
Yeah.
Because it's such a funny experience.
Yeah.
Because you I've had it a lot, less so now, but kind of like when I was younger, like before a TV series, there'd be like all these clothes would come in. And
they all come on a long rail, don't they?
and you're
We
like,
think this is your Tuesday look.
Yeah. And you just go, I just can't wear any of this.
Yeah.
It becomes, it's whatever you're comfy in. And then you realise you are 45 wearing the same clothes that you wore when you were 20.
But does it matter? I mean,
No, not in the slightest, but it does to other people.
no,
where
it
it's like,
does, because
yeah.
I didn't realise, for instance, when I was at, when Trig Happy was, no, after Trig Happy, but my kids were at a school, and I just turned out as usual. And it's not like I think I'm in the hood, but my jeans are always quite low on the hip, just
Yeah.
because I was fat. So like,
Yeah.
it just, that's what it was. But literally, I was known as jeans round his knees, man,
Yeah.
like that. And I go, oh right, people. I just felt comfortable. It's very weird. The
No, I
whole
know.
clothing thing's very odd. I feel comfortable when I walk into a Carhartt shop. There's a lot of other slightly creative, middle-aged to elderly men, and no one judges each other. It's like going into a sort of
Yeah,
into
I
a
can see
vinyl
that.
store.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
Yeah, the skateboard's gone,
Yeah,
but the fabrics remain.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
All
yeah.
clothing, no skateboard. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I never even skateboarded.
But you're the same, Dan. You've always had.
So let's have a look at what you're wearing,
Dan's
Dan.
always-
He's
well-
got very subtle chords, so that's quite interesting because
But
he's
he's
sort of
always had a
casual,
look.
posh.
Yeah,
but he's got nice green trainers that I like. But
you-
yeah, he's got a business shirt. I'd never wear a shirt.
I respect somebody that just sticks with what they wear more than I respect someone. Not that I don't. To me, I would feel so icky and silly.
That's really interesting you say that. So, for instance, well, I did the chase, the celeb chase thing,
Yep.
and I didn't even see. I'm shit at those shows, but I didn't see it said come in shiny suits or come as.
Yeah.
I didn't even see that. I just turned out my usual stuff, and even when I saw the show, like everyone else is in the suited and booted, and I'm just there in car, and I literally got people going, "You scruff, you should have made an effort." Or if I go on Jeremy Vine occasionally, someone goes, "You're on telly, make an effort." I go, "But I just look like a twat. What am I going to do? Wear a suit? I'm not in court."
Do you occasionally look at something and go, "Oh, what if? Could I do that? Could I pull that off?"
Well, I mean, I've always been a bit porky, but I've been on Mounjaro for a year, and that's changed my life. It hasn't changed my life at all, but it's just made me suddenly, I think, oh, I can fit. I bought a couple of nice jackets the other day because I could just fit into the jackets I wanted to, and that was quite nice. But that's only for if I'm really going somewhere because in the old days, I'd just turn up as a sort of, look, I'm a creative, if it's black tie, I go, yeah, but I'm creative. But no, you look like a cock at 57. Like, you occasionally have to fit in, it's fine. So... No, not really, though. There's not many things I look at and think I won't.
What is Mounjaro like? How does it work? Because it's one of those things I read about it. Do you have to inject it?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So so my neighbour down the street is a judge, and she was quite a big judge. She would say so herself. And suddenly, she was like, I was like, "Are you ill?" Like, she just looked amazing. She'd lost a lot of weight. I said, "What have you done?" She said, "Oh, I'm on Mounjaro." I said, "What the hell's that?" She goes, "Well, it's like Ozempic, but Ozempic had a lot of side effects. Mounjaro's like the iPhone 3, as far as I can see. It had like less side effects." And I said, "How do you get it?" And she said, "Well, it's slightly embarrassing. Like, you have to pay for it, but you have to take some pictures of yourself in your pants, but you don't have to show your head, and send it in so you prove you're overweight." So my wife is taking these headless pictures of me in my pants, and I'm trying to look as fat as possible for once not. And then something on the scales, and anyway, they're going to accept because you're paying. And then you go and pick up this thing, and it's like an EpiPen, yeah? So I get the thing, and I've never done anything like that before, and I'm like, I don't know how to use this. So I go to the judge, I knock on the door, I go, "Look, it's arrived. Can you show me how it works?" So she goes, yeah, come up to the bathroom. So I go up to the judge's bathroom, and she sits me down on her loo, and she starts doing the syringe. And just at that moment, her 14-year-old daughter walks past the door, yeah? She looks in, and her mum, the judge, is about to inject the weird Carhartt guy down the road. But that's it. It's a tiny little thing. You just put it, you open the whole thing, and then you just push it in. I do it once a week, and changed my life. I lost 15 kilos in 4 months, and I feel great,
Is it I know a few people who've done Ozempic, and it sort of suppresses your appetite.
So what's amazing about it, because obviously, if it got in the way of sandwiches, that would be a nightmare for me.
Sure.
It doesn't stop you. You still feel hungry. You still get excited at food. But what it does, I have Labradors, right? I've got 2 Labradors, and Labradors...
Stops you from eating them.
Although we won't get onto that. But Labradors have no off button. Yeah, so Labradors, if I open the box of food, my Labrador, he'll just eat till he fucking... keels over, right? That's his job. I was a bit like that. Right. I kind of, if I start eating, I love it. I'll have more and more. What happens is I get excited, I order something, I start eating, and about 6-7 mouthfuls in, I think, oh, I think I've had enough. I think it's just called being a normal person. And I don't really snack anymore. I'm definitely a comfort eater, stress eater. I don't know. It's just great.
It's going to revolutionise.
It's
health,
revolutionised so many things on so many levels. Like I know loads of people that own restaurants and pubs. They're now doing Mounjaro menus because people will come in. Like my wife and I will just share a main now. We won't have anything like that. So it's really taking it down. Wow. Like they're changing the way people eat. It's fascinating. And what's What's bad about it? I mean, the amount of bad things you get from being overweight. What I find weird, and my wife's one of them actually, are the people that go, "You don't deserve it. You're cheating." And I go, "Yes, I'm cheating, but who gives a shit? What would you prefer, that, or I'm waddling about in a bikini before I get knocked over by a bus because I can? I mean, it's great. I think do it.
Yeah.
Just jab yourselves, everyone now.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I love. The amount of I had loads of arguments with anti-vax morons during COVID who thought Bill Gates were trying to put microchips in your brains, and just idiots, real idiots. I know some of them who are now on Mounjaro. They're jabbing away with that. So make your mind up.
I really enjoyed that. It was such a
Thank you.
fascinating chat.
I really was worried about the things I chose because I chose them quite quickly, but actually they were quite good. They were all right. I thought, what am I going to talk about? Sandwiches, but actually I love talking about sandwiches.
Well, that's the beauty of it. It's,
it is
the
really
whole
nice.
idea of the podcast is
It's a kickoff. Yeah,
it's a safe space.
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Dom Joly.